Yes! That's credits, baby. That's credits, baby. We did it. All right, so first things first. This is going to pause when I move over to this, but it's okay. First things first, the bottom center of the screen says that we've beaten 61 games in 2024 and 508 since we started doing this in 2020. Lies, all lies. We have now beaten 62 games in 2024 and 509 since we started doing this. Let's go. All right, let's talk about the ups and downs of Ninja Gaiden for the Master System. So let me just preface this by saying that I hate this series, at least up to this point. I have now played Ninja Gaiden 1, 2, 3, and now the Master System Ninja Gaiden, which is a completely different one, and I hate all of them. I think they're bad, objectively bad games, and it's not just because they're hard, it's because they're poorly made. I go back and I play Mario or some of the later Mega Man games, and there are games from this era that are, the platforming is pristine, the hitboxes are fine, everything is good. Ninja Gaiden is not one of those games. They are broken, all of them. The hitboxes are all over the place. Your sword just goes right through stuff sometimes. Being able to target even items is a nightmare. And then on top, the platforming is imprecise as hell. You can look like you definitely made a jump and then you don't, or sometimes you look like you definitely didn't make a jump and you do. It's all over the place. Whatever people like about this game, I'm sorry, but it's just nostalgia. There's nothing. These games are very poorly made, except they have great pixel art and music, right? That's the only real redeeming quality of these games. Now, this is from 1992, so I was hoping it would be a little bit different. It's really not that different. Oh, yeah, and the other thing I was going to say is, knowing all that stuff is true, because it's not like the devs don't know that their game is broken. They decide to put way too many characters on the screen, make your hit animation when you get hit, make you fly across the screen, usually into some lava pit or off of a cliff or into some other enemy. They do that on purpose. There is absolutely no reason for a game to be built like that. It is a travesty. All that being said, this one is a little bit different. It's not really different in the way of all the stuff I just talked about. The platforming's still horrible. The hitboxes are still a complete mystery. There are way too many enemies in a lot of different places. However, there are some things that are different about this game. Now, one thing that's not as good is the pixel art. It's still okay, but it's not as, it doesn't pop the same way as the NES games did. It's just not as iconic. It looks like it's lower effort. Same with the music. The music's not bad, but it's just not iconic. It doesn't have that. I mean, I had never played Ninja Gaiden 1, 2, or 3 before, and I immediately recognized that music as awesome. It's just immediately iconic. I did not get this impression from this game. So, and the pixel art, honestly, this is probably the best pixel art I've seen in the game. Because the other pixel art, it's fine. It's not horrible. It's still got that cool pixel art look. But it doesn't look like it's as well made as the original NES trilogy. It just doesn't look like... Maybe it's different people that worked on it or something. I don't know. But it's just not as good. However, there are some things about this game that are markedly better. The checkpoint system is better. If you die while you're fighting a boss, you'll start right back up at the boss. Love that, because in the original Ninja Gaiden games, you're going back to the beginning of that part of the level. Sorry about you. And I just noticed there are a lot more checkpoints in the game, so that's nice. This game it seems to give you more health. It takes more hits to die. And they also give you more opportunities to gain health with drops. Those were very rare in the original Ninja Gaiden trilogy. They're not that rare in this game. You get a lot of the health drops would be right before the boss room. So that was nice, and I thought that was they're throwing me a raft in the middle of a fucking hurricane. I mean, it's not going to do... It's still way, way, way too hard in the worst way, most unreasonable way. But they're giving me a little bit there. There's more health to pick up. That did make things more reasonable a little bit. Also, and most importantly, the boss fights in this game actually aren't bad. In the original Ninja Gaiden trilogy, again, whatever you think, if you've played those games before and you love the Ninja Gaiden games, go back and play them again. They are horrible, and the boss fights are some of the worst parts of it. They are completely unreasonable. There is no way to avoid damage a lot of the time without being pixel precise in a game that does not reward pixel precision because the hitboxes are stupid. It would be one thing if you had to be pixel precise on those bosses and the pixels actually did what they were supposed to, but they don't. And so the only way to get through a game like this without taking damage is to have played it for 5,000 hours or something. It's just that's the only way. You cannot get good at this game at those games in any reasonable amount of time. And the same is true for this game, except I did find that after 10, 20, 30 deaths against a boss, I was starting to find actual, real, dependable ways to do damage without taking damage. And I'm not saying I ever got good enough that I was getting no damage on bosses. I was still fighting for my life. But I found you could see the patterns were intuitive, a little bit more intuitive, where you could say, okay, if I stand on this platform and then hit him a couple of times, then I can run to this platform and duck and then jump and then hit him a couple more times. The patterns were more intuitive. They were easier to see. I'm not saying they were easy. They were still difficult as hell, but they were easier to see because they were more intuitive. They made more sense. There are bosses especially the later bosses in the original Ninja Gaiden trilogy, you've got something bouncing from every corner of the screen into every pixel on the screen, and there is really no reasonable way to avoid damage. Not without pouring dozens and dozens of hours into a single fight just to figure out every pixel perfect thing and work around all the jank where it's like, okay, I know that there's 3 pixels of difference between where it would look like I'm touching the boss and where I actually get hit by the boss, so I have to account for that. You have to learn all that crap. That was true of this game too. However, the bosses just seem to be more intuitively put together, where it was they designed it to where the guy, if you're playing this and you're paying attention, it shouldn't take you too long to figure out that if you stand here for just this millisecond, hit him, duck, jump, go over to this other platform, do the same thing. If you can actually figure that out. And to the point where from a lot of the bosses, once I got to where I beat them, I actually felt like I could do it again. Whereas in the original Ninja Gaiden trilogy, when I beat the final boss or whatever boss I was on, I was like, oh, thank God. I never want to see that again, because it was so much of it was just luck that I didn't feel confident that I had learned something from that boss. For the first time in the Ninja Gaiden series, this game made me feel like I had learned how to beat the bosses as opposed to just managing to tank my way through it barely. I still barely survived a lot of the time, but I felt like I had earned it. Whereas in the whenever you get through a Ninja Gaiden boss, you just feel like you survived a tornado. It's like, okay, you have nobody to thank but God, because it had nothing to do with your ability. You just happened to survive. So, but all that being said, I still think this is a poor game. I just think all of these games are bad. But I think it's my favorite Ninja Gaiden game so far. It's not good. I don't think it's good. The levels are still pretty much as bullshit as ever. Except for the fact that they give you a little bit more health, and you have, I think, a little bit more health, and you can survive longer. Maybe there's a little bit fewer enemies on the screen than in the original Ninja Gaiden trilogy, because, I mean, they really just packed it, you know, and maybe I didn't get quite that impression with this game. Maybe it's a little bit easier on that front, too. But yeah, long story short, I think this is my favorite Ninja Gaiden game, and that is saying very, very little. Now, I haven't played the Xbox one like the later ones yet, and I'm looking forward to doing that. This is in service to that. I'm going to play through the whole series. So all I'm speaking of when it comes to experience is just the original trilogy and then now this. And I think this is the best one. I think this is the best one. It's got the best boss fights. It's got the most reasonable built levels. And the pixel art and music are not as good, but I care a lot more about the gameplay than the pixel art and music. The pixel art and music is great, but I care about those boss fights were were what really won me over on this one as far as liking it better. So this one might rank in the top 400 for the first time in the Ninja Gaiden game. That might happen, but it's not going to rank high because I still think it's just a bad game. I'm looking forward to see once the jump to 3D happens. I think maybe it might be after this one. Don't quote me on that. I haven't looked at it in a while, but once that happens, I'm looking forward, because I've heard those games are hard too. There's no way they're as hard as these games. There's no way. There's just no way, because they're not impossible, right? People have beaten them. I know people have beaten this game, but I mean, at that point, you're talking about like the same people that have figured out how to beat Ninja Gaiden 1, 2, and 3 legit are the same people that have figured out how to hit every note on Through the Fire and Flames every single time they pick up the... You have to be obsessive to even be able to get to the final boss and beat it in that game. You just have to be. And that's true for this too. There's no way I would have gotten through this without spam saving. I tried to keep it to a minimum, but there's just no way with it. Finite lives. By the way, never got a single one up in this whole game. I don't know if I was missing them or if there's something you have to do, if it's like a score thing or something, but this game does not give you lives, which didn't matter to me, but it's worth observing. It didn't matter to me because I was using save states, but it's worth observing. So, anyway, the best of the bad, Ninja Gaiden Master System. All right, that's it. This is normally the part in the video where I'd say, Ninja Gaiden on the Master System, it's been fun, but we're now going to delete you from our console and never play you again. I had to emulate this because there's no way to play it on current hardware, so I'll just say adieu. Thanks for existing, I guess. Thanks. Good job on the boss fights. Kind of. A little bit.